60 companies, 12 years, one ultimate tier list of every single car company in the game. So before I get into the list, I just want to quickly say there are a lot of companies that have like one car which like nobody would use unless it was for like a mission or something. These companies are all in F and E tier, so I'm just going to quickly speed through it like as quick as I possibly can. And by the way, these aren't in any sort of order considering all of the cars that they make are complete trash. With that, let's begin in F tier. The Chariot made the Hearse. The only time I used the Hearse was in the security pass setup with the casino. Classique made this car called the Broadway. Eberhard, the new company, made the Titan 250D. Galivanter. Now this is interesting because they've made a couple of cars, but you're gonna understand why it's in F tier when I list out the cars. The Baller LE, the Baller LE LBW, the Baller ST, and the Baller STD. As you can see, they're all variations of the same car, which basically means they've only made one car. If you think otherwise, you're probably Jack Sheep made the Lawnmower. Kraken made the Avisa and the Kraken Submarine. So I guess the full name of this submarine would be the Kraken Submarine, but we don't have to worry about that. Maxwell made the Abso, which is a getaway vehicle in the casino heist. Henoord made the La Corsair. I butchered that so badly, but let's just move on quickly. Speedophile, probably the best sounding company on this list, but they only made the Sea Shark. Stanley made the Fieldmaster and the Tractor. Steel Horse made the Hexa. Tundra made the Panther or Panther. I don't know. This extra E is completely throwing me off. Volca released 5 vehicles, with none of them really standing out. You have the Bagaloa, Ingot, Nebula Turbo, Werner, and Werner HKR. Zirconium released the Journey 1 and 2, if you see any sort of difference. Finally, we have Brute. I was going to put them in E tier, because they do have quite a lot of vehicles, but they also made the post-up van, and the amount of PTSD I have from it means it's immediately F tier. But with that, F tier is complete, so we can move on to E tier, which are vehicles that should have been in F tier, but I kind of like them. So we're still going over companies which hardly have any cars, but we're going over companies that I like, which hardly have any cars. First up, we have Visa. This company's only made the Neo, but it's a really nice car, and I've always wanted it, to be honest. Bolocan made the Envisage and the Prairie, based off different Hyundais. Cheval has made a total of 5 cars, with my personal favorite being the Surge, because I always used to see this being driven by NPCs on the streets in story mode. Dawntree made 4 cars, the Landstalker XL, Regina, and the Virgo. Fathom made 2 cars, being the FQ2 and the FR36. Hijack made whatever this is supposed to be, and another car called the Chameleon, which looks pretty good. Shystar has made 2 cars, the Fusilade and the PMP 600. Weenie, based off Mini Cooper, has made 6 vehicles. 5 of these vehicles have been based off the normal Issy. So to list them all out, we have the normal Issy, the Apocalypse Issy, the Issy Classic, the Issy Rally, and the Issy Sport. Willard has made the Faction Outreach, the Faction Police Car, and the Faction whatever the hell this is supposed to be. Like, when would you have to use a car like this? But I guess we're not ready for that conversation yet. Anis has made quite a lot of cars, but you don't really see most of these cars, except for the Seminole, which you see a lot of NPCs driving around. But putting Canis down here doesn't sit right with me, because they made the Terminus, which is my favorite off-roader because of the Imani Tech upgrades that come with it, which I go over in another video. Next up, we have the Western Motorcycle Company, not to be confused with the Western Company, which made a whole variety of different vehicles. HVY made 24 vehicles, which are all just industrial construction type vehicles. This was going to go in F tier, but I saw that they made the Insurgent Pickup, Night Shark, and the Barrage. I mean, I probably should have moved them up to D tier, maybe C tier. Joe Built has made 11 vehicles with a mixture of trucks that are terrible and planes that are terrible. They also made the P996 Laser, which is the most OG jet in the game. Next up, we have... oh, okay. You guys can read. I don't need to say this one out loud. They've made 12 vehicles, including the Ram Buggy, the Dune FAV, and the Club, which I found out is $1.3 million for whatever reason. At number 15, we have Karen. Honestly, I feel like this should have been higher. I mean, I'm saying that like I didn't make this list myself, but with 26 vehicles and quite a few that stand out, like the S95, which is quite similar to N95 by Kendrick. They made the Karuma, which is obviously a great vehicle. They also made the Technical Aqua, which is quite unique because it can go in water and has has a turret on the back of it. Next up, we have Overflod, which have made 8 vehicles which are all supercars. So the lack of variety kind of got it in F tier because all of these cars are basically the same. The prices are pretty different though, with the most expensive being about $3 million with the Pipistrello and the cheapest being about 800k with the XF entity. Vista has made 9 land vehicles, with 5 of them being variations of the Comet. They also made the Astron, which is the only real sign of variation because it's an SUV and every other car this company has made are just sports cars. Next up, we have Imponte. They've made 10 cars, but this company is quite varied when it comes to how much the vehicles cost. On the cheap side, we have the Duke of Death, which is completely free. And on the expensive side, we have the Deluxo, which is crazy expensive for obvious reasons. Next up, we have Trojan, which have 6 vehicles, which are all just high-spec supercars, mainly based off of McLaren, with the only real variation in this company being the PR4, which is an F1 car. Finally, we have the Emperor, with 3 cars to their names, all based off of Lexuses. They do have pretty solid cars like the ETR1 and the Vector, but only having these 3 cars means it can't go above C tier. Finally, we've gone past that section, which took way longer than it should have, but this is really where the list begins and the video gets a proper structure. So the way I rank the vehicles from here on out is based off 3 different things: how many vehicles they're produced, how common it is to see vehicles produced by this company, and personal bias, because this is still my list. The only exception to these rules are going to be S tier, because the S tier cars are just going to be A tier cars, which I really like, but we'll get to that when we get to those tiers. So let's begin with the new structure, starting off with C tier. The bottom of C tier, we have Albany, with a total of 21 vehicles based off of proper American cars like Cadillacs and Buicks. This isn't really my taste. You do see a lot of these on the streets, like the Cavalcade, this car, the Emperor, and the Washington. Next up, we have Enus, with 13 cars, all being luxury Bentley type of cars. So they are pretty varied, but they just aren't my type. You know, even though they do make SUVs, coupes, and bulletproof cars, these cars just aren't my type. Next up, we have Shih Tzu, who have made 10 vehicles, which are all a mixture of bikes. These bikes include the Hakusho Drag, which is the best HSW vehicle for time trials, the PCJ 600, which I remember from GTA Vice City Stories, but they've also made the Longfin, which is used in the Cayo Perico heist. The next company is Lampadati, with 14 vehicles made up of 13 cars and a boat. There isn't anything too notable here, except they've made a range of cars, from SUVs like the Novak to supercars like the Taygon to normal civilian type cars like the Felon GT, which I see everywhere. Next up, we have Trafade. Now, considering they've only made 4 cars, it probably should be lower down on the list, considering the cars by this company aren't too varied. So all of these cars are supercars, except for the Z-Type, and they're all pretty expensive, being over $1 million. But these cars are based off Bugatti, which you can't go wrong with, really. Next up, we have Coil. So before this video, I actually thought Coil had a lot more vehicles than this, but they only have 7 vehicles, 1 bicycle, and 6 cars. One of these cars being the Rocket Voltic, which is a really fun vehicle, and another being the Coil Cyclone 2, which is the fastest accelerating game when using the HSW variant. Moving on, we have Dubashi, which is one of my favorite car companies because it's based off Aston Martin, which is one of my favorite car companies. They have 10 land vehicles with a decent range, with the cheapest being the Rapid GT at about 100k and the most expensive being $3.7 million, which is the Champion. Finally, we have Inverter, which is again one of my favorite companies because their cars are based off of Corvettes, but because they only made 6 cars, it can't go any higher than C tier, even though they made one of my favorite cars, the Coquette D10. Moving on to B tier. At the bottom of the tier, we have Buckingham, which is one of the few companies that don't sell any land vehicles. So with 23 vehicles, you're bound to know a few of these, like the Luxor private jet, the Maverick helicopter, the Pyro jet, and in a complete curveball, the tugboat. I'm not sure why, but they made the tugboat. Next up, we have Western Company, which, like I said before, not to be confused with Western Bike Company. Now, this company makes aircrafts only, and they've made quite a few good planes, like the Rogue, which is the fastest propeller plane in the game, and the Bezra, which is one of the most agile jets I've ever flown. Next up, we have Meibatsu, which have made 10 vehicles ranging from helicopters like the Frogger, bikes like the Manches, trucks like the Mule, cars like the Penumbra FF. With this range of vehicles and all of the prices being relatively low, I feel like B tier is a good fit for this company. Next up, we have MTL, which is a truck company which has made 10 different heavy duty vehicles. Now, the reason it's so high on this list is because I can guarantee you've seen some of their vehicles, like the Pounder. I'm sure sure you've seen this truck driven around by NPCs, or the Brickade 6x6, which is the truck used for the acid lab, or the flatbed, which you use to export mixed goods. Next up, we have Dinka, company which has made 25 vehicles mainly based off of Hondas, which you can tell by looking at the Jester, which looks just like a Honda NSX, the Sugoi, which looks just like a Type R Civic, and the Marquis, which again, complete curveball. They made a couple of cars and they made a sailboat. It doesn't make any sense, but we'll move on to the best car in beta, Grotti. Now, I thought this one would have been a lot higher before making this video, but with 20 vehicles, all based off of Ferraris, and being one of my favorite car companies, Grotti doesn't actually have too much variation, which is why it's not a lot higher. Because if this list was purely based off my opinion, Grotti would be top 3 easily. So Grotti's only made sports and supercars like the Carbonizar, which is the best hardtop convertible, the Italy GTO Stinger TT, which is one of the fastest HSW vehicles in the game, and the Vigilante, which again, complete curveball. Moving on to the big leagues, A tier. First up, we have Anis, the car company which is based off Nissan in real life with 11 cars. Now, the reason this is so high is because the price range of these cars is huge. On the bottom end, we have the Elegy RH8, which is completely free, and at the top, we have the S80RR at a price of $2.5 million. But that's not the only reason it's this high. The Elegy RH8 is the car which every new player should be running because it's completely free, yet it's really nice to drive. Next up, we have Nagasaki. With 17 vehicles, they have extreme variety, having aircrafts like the Buzzard and the Havoc, bikes like the Shinobi and the Shotaro, quad bikes like the Blazer, and transforming quad bikes like the Blazer Aqua. They even have boats like the Dinghy, which all of us have definitely used in our time playing GTA. Next up, we have Obey, the parody company of Audi, with 11 vehicles which aren't too varied. But the reason that it is an A tier is because I can almost guarantee you've seen at least 3 of these cars. The first one being the 9F Cabrio, which is the car that Franklin and Lamar steal in the very first mission you do. The Tailgater, which is Michael's actual vehicle. And the Tailgater S is the car which is always an option for when you do auto shop contracts. Moving on to Benefactor, which is the parody company of Mercedes, I'm pretty sure. They have 25 vehicles with amazing variety. So they have normal cars like the Schwarzer and the Schafter V12, supercars like the Krieger, racing cars like the LM86, 6-wheel off-roaders like the Dubster, F1 cars like the BR8, weaponized vehicles like the turreted limo, and the Terabyte truck. So with this huge variety of cars, it has definitely earned its spot in A tier. But all the way at the top of A tier, the final company that we have, De Classe. With 48 vehicles, there's a huge variety of purely land vehicles to choose from. So we have muscle cars like the Sabre Turbo, we have lowriders like the Voodoo, classic sports cars like the Mamba, vans like the Burrito, which I'm sure you've seen before, F1 cars like the DR1, and they made the Scramjet, which is completely unexpected. Finally, moving on to the greatest of the greats, S tier. So S tier is basically just vehicles that were in A tier, but I moved them up because I really like the company or I like some of the cars that they've made. So let's get into the first one, the bottom of S tier, Rune. Now before you get mad, let me just say one word, Kasaka, the vehicle that's probably made you the most amount of money. But obviously it's not worthy of being one of the greatest companies in the game. Obviously I'm kidding, guys, relax. Rune is probably like D tier if I'm being realistic. But remember, this is my list. You can't stop me from doing this. Next up, we have Ubermacht. So with 15 vehicles, all based off BMWs, these cars look so good. But there are definitely some which are my favorite and some which you've definitely seen before. Or some you should just buy because they're really good. For example, I have a custom version of the Cypher, which has a special custom license plate on it, which I didn't have to glitch for because I got it from the salvage yard. The Niobe, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Niobe is based off the i8 and is probably my favorite vehicle like right now. The Sentinel XS is the cheapest HSW vehicle and is a great alternative for new players that are thinking about buying supercars because this is cheaper than most supercars. And finally, we have the Oracle, which is one of the first cars I bought. Moving on, we have Mammoth. So with only 12 vehicles, Mammoth isn't the biggest company in the world, but the variation is amazing. So first up, we have VTOL jets like the Hydra and the F-160 Raiju, which is definitely by far my favorite jet. We have the Tula, which is a VTOL amphibious plane, the Dodo, which is just an amphibious plane, the Thruster, which is a jetpack, the Avenger, which is an entire service vehicle. But the variation doesn't even stop there. They also sell land vehicles like military jeeps and Hummers. Moving on to the third highest company in the entire game, Bravado. With 36 vehicles, they have great variation. They have dusty pickup trucks like the Dune Loader, speed demons like the Banshee GTS, which is one of my favorite cars again. And it's also the fastest car in the entire game. They have muscle cars like the EVX and the STX, SUVs like the Dorado and the Grizzly, which are everywhere you look on the streets, vans like the Rumpo, and weaponized vehicles like the Half-Track, which has this turret on the back of it. Coming in as the second best vehicle company in the entire game, we have Pegassi. With 29 vehicles in total, I can guarantee you've seen at least one Pegassi vehicle in your time, like the Fagio, the Infernus supercar, the Zentorno, which is the signature supercar for all new players, the Toreador, which is a transforming submarine car with a booster on it, and of course the Oppressor Mark 1 and Mark 2. So the main reason for Pegassi being this high is the crazy amount of vehicles that it has and the amount of exposure that we all have to Pegassi. I mean, we've all seen an Infernus going around the streets. We all use the Oppressor Mark II to grind, so it's definitely deserving of this spot. But coming in at first place, it wasn't really close, to be honest, because this company is just amazing. Coming in at first place, we have Vapid. With an incredible 70 vehicles, you're bound to have seen some of these, and you best believe there's a heck of a lot of variation with all of these. You have trucks like the Benson, SUVs like the Radius and the Illusion. You could read it, it's on the screen. Police cars like the ones that the NPCs use, and the Sheriff ones. Muscle cars like the Dominator with all of its different variations like the GT, GTT, GTX and ASP. Pickup trucks like the Caracara and Bobcat, which by the way, the Bobcat's been in like every single GTA game. Vapid also makes supercars like the Bullet, which you've definitely seen on the street somewhere, and the FMJ. They also have a bunch of different vehicles which don't really fit into a category, so I'm just going to list them out. You have the Winky from Cayo Perico, the Monster Truck, which you use in bunker cell missions, the Scrap Truck, the Tow Truck, and the Taxi. And with that, the list is over. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something, and like always, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.